Chapter 55, Hungry Eyes. It was at this point that Michael took a look around and noticed how Mary was also in the building. She was sitting at the bar and she was sitting there with a friend. Mary, of course, could never stand Michael's antics, so she was doing her usual, keeping her attention away, as to let him know she didn't want his. Mary's friend, on the other hand, was right now doing the complete opposite and staring at Michael directly. Oh, okay. What's going on here? At first, Michael thought she looked pretty, very pretty even, but in no way drop dead gorgeous. Funny, she's reminding me of someone, though. But then he started feeling her vibes, her essence, and seeing into her. Who does she... And then all of a sudden, oh, wow. He saw her. At first, for whatever reason, Michael couldn't help but to be taken in by things he didn't find attractive about her. Things that stood out, that didn't diminish how pretty, even beautiful you can say she really was, but things she wore so openly that they were hard to avoid. First off, her eyes were too big and very sad looking in a way. Her nose was also a bit too big, too noticeable from the side. She had a lot of droopy features, hardly any cheekbones, with such a skinny face that it made her look like she was physically unable to smile. Her hair was jet black and a bit stringy. Her skin was so pale and white that it was almost blinding, and even though some men might say it was milky smooth, Michael wouldn't have liked this since he was mostly attracted to darker-skinned women. As for her body, it was pretty average, flat even, curves barely noticeable. That sort of made her boyish. Even though she was the same length as Michael, she seemed very petite. She had a bit of a bony chicken neck thing that was way too long and narrow to be natural. Compared to Roxy, she had chicken legs, well defined but arched a bit too acutely, making it seem like her knees were always bent in the wrong direction. She had all the features Michael would have never liked, and yet now he couldn't get enough of it. Even from what he was getting from her personality, it was the type of stuff that Michael would have never have expected to be captivated by. She had something seriously sad and pitiful in her, pulsating from within her center, that should have been enough to detract most men away. And it was so bad, it was like she didn't have a single ounce of self-respect or self-love in her at all. Seeing all this, how sad and also afraid she seemed, made Michael frown for a moment, and feel sorry for her. She looks like the type of person that's scared of everything. So scared she constantly shivers. She also had a panting thing going on, but that of a starving animal. And worse yet, she seemed like the clingy yet extremely distant type too. Deep down, she also seemed like the mean type. Also, very bitter and hateful and almost to the point of being despicable. She seemed sad, unbelievably and unbearably sad. Too much so to have a sense of humor even, or even understand it. Very bland, very boring, and seeming so much so that it could only take the complete opposite type to know how to deal with her and find her endearing. Because then the opposite type would want to fill her up with their stars and joy to change her. She was a black hole and one that Michael felt a strong draw towards, felt compelled to do so, filling her up with the light and magic he had. But besides all that mentioned, even with all those details that would have hindered a person, the way she carried them was doing the complete opposite. She seemed like such a weak, pitiful, fragile, boring, uninteresting person with so many flaws. But the way she carried herself was as if she had learned to master them all, and had learned to turn them into her greatest assets. Turned all those weaknesses into strengths. The way she carried herself made her seem like she was such a strong, dignified, tough, vibrant, interesting person that she no longer seemed to be carrying any flaws at all. She now seemed perfect. There was some magic involved there, some truly otherworldly magic. She seemed like such an oddity compared to everything and everyone Michael had ever come across, and it was a type of magic that could cast a spell to all those around her, making them want to give up life and limb to be with her, love her, and want to be, but is she capable of it, back? The fact was, she was just a simple girl, very pretty, a bit too mousy in a way, but whatever she had done to make her seem different was really, truly doing just that. It reminds me in history class when I was in the 9th grade, before I got expelled, We were learning about Cleopatra, and they said that she wasn't exactly the most beautiful woman in the world. Actually, a very below average, even. But she just had this quality about her that made the most powerful men in the world at the time to do just about anything for her. She was no Elizabeth Taylor, but she still had the velvet eyes which carried the velvet touch. There had to be some sort of black magic involved, some sort of witchcraft, for Michael felt that dark powers used to have this woman wielding herself into something supernatural, intensifying all her attributes and casting them in high definition for all to witness, working all her flaws to her advantage, and there was something very frightening about it too. I don't know how to explain it. Actually, let me try. I'll try. Imagine an evil Audrey Hepburn. And that's it. That's the best way to describe this woman's looks and feel, an evil Audrey Hepburn. Now, I'm not saying that this girl here is evil, but there's just this vibe I'm getting. Imagine Audrey with that funny face of hers. If it wasn't funny, but extremely sad, and also a little scary. And the thing with Audrey Hepburn is she's such a lovable person, I could never imagine feeling attracted towards her. She comes across as more of a sister. Well, more than Mary there sitting. Poor excuse for her sister Mary there. Stupid, angry Mary. Fucking... Anyways. I could have never imagined being with Audrey Hepburn. She's too lovable and good. Too good for the likes of me. This woman... She also comes across as being too good for the likes of me, but I want to destroy this woman here. Annihilate her. I want to hear her moan like a banshee from both pain and pleasure. And the louder she does, the louder I want it to get. Louder, harder, louder, harder. Oh, she is fucking hot. Is she? Is she? Yeah, she is. I don't think she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. Fuck all those Hollywood starlets and bombshells I've always had a thing for. This is the real thing here. In flesh and blood and bone. Oh, what is it about this woman? What I would do now just to be with... Wait. Okay, I gotta stop thinking like this. I'm with someone right now. Don't think about this girl here. No, stop it. Stop doing that. Stop. But Michael couldn't. And one major reason was how she was eating him up with her pitiful, yet not pitiful, eyes. As it kept Michael's attention from reverting back to his own group. Oh shit, this girl's got some voodoo on me. Or something, thought Michael as he noticed she wasn't even blinking. Damn. This girl has also got that Anne Margaret quality about her. She doesn't just grab your attention, she hijacks it. Hey Michael, is that Mary? Asked Tomboy. Yeah, that's her, responded Michael as he kept his gaze from reverting back to the evil Audrey Hepburn there. Oh, wow, who is that fox with her? No one that would ever be interested in you, snapped Michael almost whisperingly. She's mine, I saw her. Shit. What's that supposed to? Nothing. It felt like a minute had passed and Michael could still feel the unflinching, unnerving, and unrelenting gaze of hers on the back of his head. And the more he felt it, the more he began learning how to enjoy it. And now he could no longer resist taking another peek at her. And what he saw was that she now seemed to want to get up from the bar and walk over to Michael and his party. No. Don't come over here. Don't. Oh, stop being such a dickless twerp. Please, sweetie, you go ahead and do so. This took some time, as she seemed to be having some trouble getting Mary to follow along. But then she seemed to have coerced her to finally do so. Get up, and as the two did, they began making their way over to him. Who's Mary? Asked Roxana, pretending to smile, but really eyeing insecurely at the two 5'6" and plus women approaching. Oh, she's my sister, babe, responded Michael as he turned around and gave Roxana a kiss on the lips and kept his eyes on her to let her know there was no worry. Yeah, no worry. Roxana smiled for real this time and then leaned up high, going tippy-toe to try and kiss Michael back. Oh, she's short, too short, and I don't want to think about that. Yo, Michael, how you been? Muttered out old Mary the goat in an indifferent tone. Mary was dressed as plainly as an asexual librarian. She wore granny glasses, a long hanging flapper blouse, and some gray belt bottoms to match her boringness, looking like she had raided some old flapper girl from the 20s bohemian wardrobe, and she found in some dusty and cobwebby attic. She also had her grayish blonde hair all bob cut, super short, and looking as wet and sterilized as if she had just stepped out of a cold acid shower. And all that being her warm and pleasant side, for her personality was even more sterile looking. Her personality as warm as a soggy, wet towel wrapped around a person's head in winter. The only style that really seemed out of place on her was the red-hot platformers, which made her dwarf Michael by an inch or two. Wow, what is it with women and their love affair with shoes? So you're doing good or what? Asked Mary. Yeah, replied Michael as he began to redirect his attention back onto her friend. The way her friend now dressed was a different story. She was wearing a devilishly red silk tailored dress that was provocatively high-cut, yet hung loose enough to where if a wind was to blow in, it would give everyone the impression that her dress had caught on fire. Also, her black as night hair was feathered out, wild, like it was looking for some wind to catch and take off. All in all, she looked like a knockout, and Michael felt he had to be careful before he found himself crawling for the ropes over her. Okay, stop staring at me with those eyes of yours. I've never seen a person's eyes shiver, and yours do, and it's freaking me out and getting me. Stop staring. So, sis, who's your friend? Inquired Michael. At first trying to smile flirtatiously, but stopped when he realized Roxana was right now watching him like a hawk. Yeah, bro, this is Nikki, high school friend of mine, replied Mary. Look, but no touch. Oh, fuck you, Mary. Go back to your room. Go back to cutting out faces of guys you think were dreamboats in your high school yearbook and setting them on fire in an ashtray. Yeah, I remember catching you doing that one time, you man-hating crazy bitch, thought Michael, and mirrored the distasteful smirk his sister was giving him, but was then taken back when he now saw that Nikki had a devilishly red smile on her face to match her garments. Michael at this moment couldn't help but to smile back in delight. What a smile. Everything's at odds with this woman. Well, it wouldn't hurt Roxana to feel a little jealous. After that bit of formalities, Michael decided to turn back to the game at hand. He didn't want to get too swept away with Mary and her company, knowing it was probably best to leave certain engagements out completely. Plus, this was a time Michael still hadn't gone full-on cheater mode as he did with Nikki there eventually. He had been dating Roxana for 6 months already. Besides flirting with some girls on the side, he felt content not to stray away too far. All in all, she was really a very sensitive and kind-hearted girl, and Michael felt he'd feel just as devastated if he hurt her as she would. Couldn't cheat on Roxy. She's been through too much. But then again, I don't know if this will last. I don't. Thought Michael as he kept thinking about what she had said to him then, before making it with her. Stop thinking about it. We're going to make this work, one way or another. Of course, going on with the rest of the night proved wasn't going to be so simple. Nikki was up to something. For whatever reason, she began buying lots of drinks for everyone, but what was very peculiar about it was she didn't seem to be doing it all out of the kindness of her own heart. She was really loading them up, and most of all, the beers were being rounded up and offered to both Michael and Roxy as they continued to play, while growing sloppier by the second with their game. Mary and Nikki had sat close by on some stools and accompanied Tomboy, and Tomboy, being his usual self of trying to prove something to everyone, tried hitting on Nikki. Wait a second, what are you talking about, Tommy? Asking her about the maker of her dress? What? Okay, now I don't know if you really that desperate or you're just... What's that, Tommy? You think you'd also look ravishing in Nikki's dress too? Spouted out Michael, while watching Roxana burst out with a single chuckle, reluctantly, and miss a shot. It wasn't really all that funny, and Tomboy said nothing at first. But after a second, it dawned on Nikki why Michael might have made that joke, as she began laughing a little. Maybe she does have a sense of humor. Everything seems to be at odds with her. As stated. Mary just shook her head while biting her nails. Mary, you should have been born a lesbian. And I'm saying this as your brother. Okay, so Tommy, you see anyone? Asked Nikki, a little curious, like a schoolgirl. Looking over at Tomboy, Michael then noticed how now Nikki's thinking differently of him over this bit of information. It all had changed everything. Seeing how she might be taking him as a fag had become too much for him, as he now seemed about ready to boil over with embarrassment. He was now beaming at Michael like he wanted to burn a hole into him. And besides Madboy, Tomboy had to be the second biggest temperamental bastard in the Shamrocks. Ah, shit, here we go again. Tomboy walked over behind Michael as Michael didn't turn around since he did not want to get into a confrontation with him. And over this, you know, fuck you, Madboy. Fuck you and your jokes. I ain't a fag, lashed out Tomboy. And it was sort of obvious he was doing this mostly to rebound with whatever he felt he had lost with Nikki when the joke was made. Calm your ass down, Tommy. It was only a joke, responded Michael. You always think you're tough. Well, what if I ended up beating the ever-loving shit out of you instead right now? How would you feel then? Lashed out Tomboy again as he shoved Michael back there and looked like he really wanted to go at it. Tommy, seriously, learn to take a fucking joke now and then, would you? Lashed out Michael now, not liking how he got shoved the way he did. No, fuck you. Let's go. Let's go now. You and... Tommy, come sit with me, please. Pleaded Nikki, changing up the mood completely. Nikki had stepped up to him, grabbing a hold of his arm, and had just looked at him sideways. It was strange for Michael seeing her in action, something so frail looking as her, having such a not-so-frail presence. Domineering almost, and so gracious in a way as well. Even though she was speaking softly to Tommy, it still sounded like she was barking out orders, like some drill sergeant would. Tomboy then lit up like a pinball machine, colored all funny, cooled down a bit, and complied. It was really impressive watching Nikki diffuse that situation. She really seemed to have a knack for talking people into getting her way. And Michael sort of felt like he wanted to be a part of that now. And it's sort of sexy too, in a way. I mean, I've never seen a woman ooze with so much sexuality in her body language since I took that one Puerto Rican chick dancing. And when Latin girls dance, they can melt steel and engulf discos into a raging infernos. But they at least have to work up a sweat to get there, twisting and turning and shaking their goods all around the way they do. This girl just has to cock her head to one side and smile, and that's it. They were both back to sitting on their stools. Tommy seemed pretty mellowed out now that his ego was back on track. Nikki, on the other hand, continued to eye both Michael and the Persian, smiling like she had hidden agendas. By now, Roxana had also noticed this, even in her tipsy state, and began doing what she could to let Nikki know Michael was off limits. It really was a hot summer night, and the humidity in town had to be over 90%, and all felt like being underwater, under the simmering sway of the night, getting all heat sick and sweaty since it was all so hot, and they were all so drunk, but still, hell of a good time. Although except for Mary, who just sat there acting like she was beyond all this, better, and seeing how Mary was acting, not wanting any part of the good times they were having, Michael was starting to grow annoyed.